Okay, let's begin. Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. A few housekeeping things before we begin. Yes, this webinar is being recorded, and you will receive the recording after the webinar is complete. You can also find this and all previous webinar recordings, if you're interested, on our Badgr YouTube channel. I would love to engage with you. I'm interested in getting to know you. I see some of you have started to introduce yourselves in the chat. That's awesome. Super excited to get to know you. And as we go along, if you have questions, which I'm sure you will, please drop them in the chat. If I can, I'll answer them as we go along, but definitely at the very end, we will answer any questions that we can. So let's begin by me introducing myself. My name is Kristina. I'm a sales development representative here at Concentric Sky on the Badgr team. I come to the table as a former educator and a former higher education professional. So what that means is I have a deep love for all things learning and all things skills acquisition. So that's just a little bit about me. All right, and before we begin, here is a brief overview of what we'll be talking about today. Our journey will begin with sharing Badgr's origin story. Then we will take a look at the Badgr Pro platform, and then we'll have some time to answer your questions, like I said. And so definitely feel free to put those questions in the chat as we go along, and I will make sure to answer them at the end. So first, let's talk for a quick second about Badgr's mission and how we came to be. Badgr's philosophy is grounded in the belief that technology innovation is the key to solving the social, economic, and environmental problems that we face today. And we have used open standards to disrupt the status quo and contribute to a brighter and more equitable future for everyone. And before I talk more about Badgr, I briefly just want to introduce Concentric Sky, which is the company that created Badgr. Concentric Sky has been building end-to-end software solutions for some of the world's largest and most impactful organizations since 2005. Concentric Sky created Badgr to allow organizations to issue digital badges and micro-credentials to their learners. So back to Badgr, and Badgr, of course, has been at the forefront of the digital credential space since its origination. Chosen by the MacArthur Foundation to be lead author of the Open Badges 2.0 specification, by late 2015, we developed a draft version and released Badgr as an open source reference. Also, central in the development of the ecosystem at the request of Mozilla, they transitioned their Open Badges backpack to Badgr in 2019. So Mozilla, MacArthur, and Badgr have since passed stewardship of the Open Badges standards to IMS Global, where it remains today. If you're not familiar with IMS Global, I would highly recommend checking them out and finding out the work that they do. Our clients here at Badgr span the globe and often become long-term partners. This is just a very small sample that you're looking at here of organizations that have partnered with us to offer digital badges to their learners. Over 25,000 organizations around the world in more than 160 countries are using Badgr to recognize millions of learners with digital badges for their emerging and growing skills and competencies. Although we've provided world-class solutions for some of the largest employers and universities across the globe, whether you have a, say, classroom of 30 students or a training organization with thousands of learners, you can use Badgr to deliver an exceptional digital credentialing experience for your learners. Many of you, as I imagine, probably already have Badgr accounts, so you know that getting started with Badgr is easy. And if you're not already a Badgr user, it's super simple. All you have to do is go to badgr.com to create your free account. It only takes a moment. Once you create your account, you'll need to establish your first issuer. And an issuer is the authority that is awarding the badges. So that could be your program, your organization, your department, your classroom, just depends on your use case. Once you've created your first issuer, then you can start creating and awarding badges, which is the fun part. And while we're on the topic of creating badges, whether you're just starting to develop your badging program or you're already knee-deep in your badging initiative, I'd like to provide you with a really quick best practices tip. A logical first question to ask yourself is, what are you going to badge? What skills, achievements, and/or milestones are you going to recognize with a badge? I've included this slide in here as a little extra credit to give you some food for thought on things to consider as you begin to create your badging system. These are just a few questions to help you think about the what, the how, and the why of badging. What is the learner demonstrating? How is the learner demonstrating that skill? And why is that skill valuable in the context that it is earned? Okay, before we transition to the next part of our journey, I would love to learn a little bit about you. So I'm actually going to pull up a really quick poll for you to answer a question. Let me pull that up now. And this question is, have you implemented a badging program? So go ahead and take a few seconds to answer this question. I'm curious to see where you all are at. Looks like we have some answers coming in. And it looks like we have a good mix of people. Another few seconds to go ahead and answer if you would like. I'm curious to see what you are all doing. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll so you can all see these results. So as you can see, we're all over the place. A few of you said not yet, but very soon. And many of you have already started and even are ready to take your program to the next level. That's very exciting. Thank you for answering that. All right, so we're going to transition to the next part of our journey, where we'll talk about how you can bring your badging program to life with the powerful tools of Badgr Pro. One feature that gets a lot of positive attention from our Pro subscribers is Pathways. If you're already a Pro subscriber, this probably is not a surprise to you. With Pathways, you can take individual badge awards and stack them together to map out an entire curriculum. So instead of looking at badges as standalone, a learner can follow a path and understand how their learning is linked. A pathway helps learners understand where they are in their progress towards their professional development and learning goals. And it can even point to other learning opportunities and goals that the learner may not have yet considered. With Pathways, learners can see where they have been and where they are going in their learning journey. And something else our current clients tend to love is that Pathways themselves are also stackable. So that means you can create an even deeper and more meaningful and connected learning ecosystem. Okay, after all of that I've just said about Pathways, you probably would like to see a few examples, and I'd love to deliver that. So I'm going to show you a couple real Pathways. I'll probably show you two. The first being this pathway from Arizona State University. And this represents training for faculty to prepare them to conduct courses in ASU's SYNC modality. The earner of the SYNC Professional Learning Completion Badge is a faculty member who has completed all of the training modules and is now prepared to create and deliver a better digital learning experience for their students. So that's our first example. And our second is going to be from Instructure. If any of you are Canvas, the LMS users, Instructure may be familiar to you. They are the creator and owner of Canvas LMS. And every year, Instructure has an annual conference. And so this pathway is from this year's InstructureCon conference. I like to show this pathway because it's a great example of how to use pathways to engage your conference attendees and encourage participation. Instructure gets super creative because they use this to make it more engaging and fun for their attendees. And their attendees can even turn in their final completion badge for some conference swag if they complete the pathway, which I think is a very creative and engaging way to engage your conference attendees. And then a little extra credit as well. I'll show you a third example. This is from the BPM Institute, which is part of a Brainstorm group. And this pathway represents a learner's journey towards a BPMP, which is the Business Process Management Professional Certification. So those are some 3 out in the wild examples of pathways. So we just talked about organizing your digital badges into pathways, but there is something else you can do to create even more value for your learners. And that is aligning your badges with skills. This helps describe why the skill is valuable within the context it was earned. Including a skills taxonomy in badges makes it easier for a badge recipient to not only communicate that they've earned a badge from your college or organization, but also that the credential is linked to a skill that employers are actively seeking, a relevant skill written into job descriptions, if you will. To make showcasing these skills easier, we've partnered with an organization called MZ Burning Glass, which some of you may be familiar with. If not, they are a labor market intelligence organization that has identified more than 30,000 individual skills that you can choose from to include a badge. And I see a question from Linda about pathways, which I'm going to answer really quickly. Linda says, is the pathway badge automatically issued upon completion of individual badges? So yes, pathways, the pathway automatically awards a badge upon completion of the pathway. So once all of the required steps along the pathway have been completed, the pathway automatically issues that badge. Okay, so back to skills alignment, whether the badge, you're welcome, Linda, whether the badge recipient or an interested party, anyone examining the public view of the badge can click the skill to see real-time workforce data associated with that exact skill. You can see that this leads directly to data about the demand for the skill, both in terms of job titles and the companies that are looking for this particular skill. So what this means is that it makes each badge immensely powerful and meaningful. Additionally, you can align your badges with live job postings at Indeed.com. When you bake skills into your digital badges, you're helping your learners by allowing them to communicate more effectively about their knowledge, their achievements, and the skills that they now possess because of your training program. Viewing real-time market value data, as well as authentic job postings and the companies searching for people with that skill, gives them an additional advantage. So as a former educator, like I mentioned before, who wants to see all learners reach their potential? To me, this is invaluable, and it's why it's one of my favorite things to talk about. So if you haven't yet ever created or awarded a badge, I encourage you to at least get in there and play with it. If you're like me, you like to get your hands on things, and you might be surprised how much fun you can have just in the creation process. When your badges are ready for distribution, there are many ways that you can award them. In the free version of Badgr alone, you can award them manually, one by one. And you can award them in bulk with a CSV upload. And if you are using Canvas or Blackboard as your learning management system, you can also award them automatically based on various triggers, which we'll talk more about in a moment. Now with Badgr Pro, there are even more ways to issue badges. For example, QR codes and claim links really come in handy no matter how you're delivering your training, through an LMS, in-person training, conferences, and of course, they're perfect for Zoom webinars or virtual trainings, which you will get to experience firsthand at the end of our visit. You may be now asking yourself, but how do I know if any of this makes a difference at my organization? The answer can be found in your analytics. As a Badgr Pro administrator, you'll have access to a dashboard with data about your subscription usage. The analytics provide insight into the effectiveness of your program. You'll have an overview of who is issuing badges and how often. You'll know which badges are being shared and how they're being shared, for example, to social media. And you'll be easily able to export your data to a CSV file so you can continue to manipulate the data in other ways. And then to continue to monitor the health and engagement of your initiative, you'll have tools you need for a broad organization overview, a forest view, if you will. But what is a forest without trees? That's why we also provide the tools you need to see the trees, if you don't mind me continuing my metaphor. Those insightful details that provide a full understanding of what is being used and how it's being used. That's why we provide the same data from the issuer level and even more specific individual badge and learner data. As administrator, you can also manage your staff permissions, allowing you to choose how you wish to structure your organization and who can create or edit your badges, issuers, and organization. Always keeping our users at the top of mind, we've streamlined this process for you. With Badgr Pro, you'll have the opportunity to organize your programs, your departments, and more into sub-orgs under the Badgr Pro organization umbrella. This means your organization will have a centralized approach while still allowing individual departments, programs, and the like to have autonomy within their own issuer. Pro users who want to create a very immersive and branded experience have the option to purchase our white label service. This allows you to showcase organizational pride by having your branding everywhere your learners interact with badges. The last feature I want to tell you about today is the comprehensive learner record. This is something that I think is super exciting. The learner record gathers the learner's pathway progress and achievements and showcases them in an easily understandable view. For example, let's use the success of the University of North Texas. They are using this for curricular, non-curricular, and co-curricular skills, the recognition of those things, by using the learner record to provide learners with the right tool needed to see exactly where they stand and what they've accomplished. And this conquers any information overload, which is especially helpful when learners are subscribed to multiple pathways. This learner record summarizes the pathway progress for the learner, and bonus, the learner record is shareable. Badgr is the native badging system of two of the most prevalent learning management systems, Canvas and Blackboard, making awarding badges nearly effortless. And because we're deeply integrated into various LMSs, we're able to focus on meeting instructors and learners where they are. For example, like I mentioned, we have custom development partnerships with Blackboard and Canvas, and this allows for badging automation, leaderboards, pathways, and more. For example, in more detail, in Canvas, instructors can associate badges with the completion of modules in their course. And in Blackboard, instructors can associate course items and assignments to trigger the awarding of a badge automatically. Appraising student progress is easy when you export badging data. Oh, and one more note, like I already briefly mentioned, in Canvas and Blackboard, learners can view a privacy-protected leaderboard to see how they compare to their classmates, thereby gamifying their experience, which is fun and convenient. And if you're using Moodle, you can push badges awarded in Moodle to the Badgr backpack. And with D2L Brightspace and Moodle, pathways are embedded in the learner experience. Okay, we've reached the end. And as you probably have guessed, here at Badgr, we love digital badges. And that's why I definitely wouldn't dream of having you attend one of our webinars without the chance to receive a badge on your own. So we're going to do that now. Go ahead and get out your phones. And if you would like to, you can scan the QR code. If you would prefer or don't have the ability to do that, I just dropped a link in the chat. And you can claim your badge by clicking that link. If all goes as planned when you claim your badge, you should receive digital confetti, which is super fun. It's the best kind of confetti because you don't have to sweep it up afterwards. So go ahead and if you haven't already, feel free to claim your badge as your reward for making it to the end of our webinar. Okay, so we're all different, and I'm sure you have unique questions for the exciting things that you want to do with badging. And because everyone is different, it's not a one size fits all next step. We found that the best next step is to meet one of our team members one-on-one to get to know you better and talk about your individual goals and timelines and answer your specific questions and unique problems you want to solve. And the best way to do that is to get in touch and to contact us. So the next thing I'm going to do is drop a link in the chat that you can, where you can contact us. And then actually what I'll also do is put in my email address so that you can contact me directly, so that we can get to know each other sooner. So go ahead and feel free to reach out to us one of those two ways. We're happy to help and happy to learn more about you. And of course, like I mentioned, if you have questions, please feel free to stick around so we can get to your questions. I think there were a handful in the Q&A, which I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, I'm so glad you've joined me today and taking a look at some of the many valuable tools that Badgr Free and Badgr Pro have to offer, as well as how you can use them to take your badging program to the next level. And just a reminder, if you have questions about anything we talked about today, or you'd like to get in touch with a member of our team, we're really excited to hear from you. Please definitely reach out to us. Thank you so much and happy badging. All right, so for those of you